Welcome everybody to the boss rush of Megaman Revenge of the Fallen, and as you can see you start with one E-Tank and one W-Tank, and more often than not you're probably going to use both before the boss rush is over. So naturally you start with the intro level boss, very easy. You can kind of force his hand on where he fires his fireballs, just based on your position. And as you saw, I did 20,000 points for beating him. I'll explain the point value system in just a little bit. But I would recommend everyone start on Tornado Man stage, or boss battle, because if something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong with him, just based on the instant death nature of his battle. So I always do him first, so if he's out of the way, I can breathe a little easier. So if I do good against him, I go after Circ Ring Q9, which is what I'm doing next. If I do bad, well, I go off against an easier boss. So this one is the next one I would recommend going against, just because of his overall, I don't know, annoyance factor, and the possibility for more things to go wrong during his battle, and have it prolonged far longer than you'd ever want this battle to go. Yeah, he is quite the annoying boss. And this could make or break your next battle if you manage to just eke out a victory with like low health. And there I have it. I have 30,000 points. I just got an extra life. So every 30,000 points is an extra life in your pocket. So you start off with 1, and you have the chance of increasing your life count every 30,000 points. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. If you're, let's say for example, I was at 2,500 points, and you weren't sure that you were going to make it on the next battle because of a low health amount, then you'd go after one of the easier bosses just so you could make the point value to get that extra life, that extra chance. And wow, I forgot that I started off terribly on this guy. Punk is one of the harder Mega Man killers for sure. So since I did terrible, I'm going to go against an easier boss here. One that I know I can complete. This is actually, believe it or not, one of the easier bosses. Now granted, I wasn't actually going after this boss to begin with. It was actually the capsule above him, but he would do just the same. And he's also easy to get a perfect on too, thus getting 20,000 points. So let's talk about the score system in the boss rush. I've already mentioned that every 30,000 points you get an extra life. Now, if you kill any boss, it's 5,000 points, no matter what. Now, if you kill him with just the Buster only, it's 10,000. However, if you kill him with no hits, it's 10,000. But if you kill the boss with no hits and Buster only, it's 20,000, as evidenced by the first boss, the intro boss. So naturally, the better you do, of course, the more points you get. And of course, the more lives, so on and so forth. And since I did terrible on the second Mega Man killer, I'm going to go against this boss, the Square Machine. Sure, it's a long battle overall, and it's got its insta-death elements to it. He's still an easy boss overall, as long as you know his weakness, which is Rain Flesh, which makes this battle pretty much a joke. And one thing to note, between the last beta I received and this beta, some of his attacks have definitely sped up quite a bit. Like the attack when he was pushing in from the side, yeah, that was sped up quite a bit, like right there, yeah. He's much faster now, and if you're not expecting it, he will push you into the spikes. Quite easily, I might add. So I did pretty good on him. I still want to fill up the Star Crash, because it is a very useful weapon throughout most of the boss battles here. Nightman is another powerful one where you want to get rid of him early if you're not doing too well against him. As long as you can keep up the rhythm of his 3 jumps, it shouldn't be too terrible. But once you mess up once, it's like very easy to continue to mess up. And that would have been a perfect you punk. I have to say, though, that those two big energy power-ups are kind of like a godsend, because without them, and you had no chance of restoring any of your weapon energy, this would be a lot harder of a boss rush. But since there's only two of them, you have to pick and choose which weapons you have to refill after each battle. And that can be quite the tactical problem right there you have to solve. And I chose to do Stone Man specifically on Buster only, so I could get that extra 10,000 points. Push me over the top and get me that extra life. And this was my first mistake. To think I could take this guy on with that low of health. So, if you happen to have an extra life in store, you will start off back here, but you will not be doing the intro boss again. It'll just teleport you back here to the main capsule room. And since I am at full health, this is a perfect time to tackle this boss. He's not too terrible at first. His first form is actually quite easy. It's the second form with its alternating fireball pattern that really gets it going. But all in all, he's actually quite an easy boss, despite his two forms. And this was my second mistake. I was not prepared for this guy. For being the first stage boss of the Wily Fortress, he's actually quite hard. And very tricky. The fact that I've run out of star ammo, Star Crash, and I haven't even beaten him, yeah, that doesn't bode well. It was at this point that I was really starting to worry if I was even going to beat this challenge at all and have it recorded. So first up, since I have full health, start up with the Yellow Devil. And his weakness, true weakness actually, is the Night Crush. His secondary weakness, of course, would be the Magnet Missile. The Night Crush, if you can land a hit on him, is highly effective. And you can easily see why I chose him on a full health meter, because he does quite a lot of damage. And some curse words were said here, I'm sure. Now this guy is easy if he's being nice to you. If he does this, more often than not, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Now if he does this, I was actually very much thankful for him doing this attack. He was being very lenient with me. He can be either a very hard boss or a very easy boss based on what he chooses to do. Since I'm doing pretty bad on health, Pharaoh Man with his weakness is the perfect boss to restore some energy. Because with good practice and timing, you will not take a single hit. So that's basically free energy in your pocket. I was a little unsure of which boss to take on next. But granted that this guy wasn't too terribly tough, I figured Magma Man wouldn't be that bad to tackle. I was half wrong. Centaur Man can be deviously difficult, especially when combined with the 25 other bosses. It's all about managing weapons energy, figuring out which weaknesses you have left to use, of which the Star Crash is a very useful and very highly frequented weakness, so you constantly want to have that thing full up. And I'm trying to get this guy on Buster only, so I can get 10,000 points. And that was clearly not going to happen. But I still have 2 lives left. There's still a chance of beating this. With full health, we're going to pick a boss, this boss, and see if I can beat him. He basically takes up the entire Star Crash ammo, if you play it right. And of course, you know, that wasn't played right. But he's beaten, so all is well. Sparkman is another one of those tough bosses. If you're not full up on your energy or your health, I would not recommend going against him until you are. Again, fully restock that Star Crash ammo. Very useful. Let's try again, Inker. I'm a little bit better off than what I was when I first faced him, but he could totally tear me up regardless. In fact, all 3 of the hunters can. And that was a close call. Starman can be quite easy or quite difficult based on how compliant he wants to be with you. When he does stuff like that, that's easy. That's extra free hits in the can. When he does something like that, that's not being very cooperative. But all in all, Starman is actually one of the easier ones. At least this time around he was. Let's try good old Magnet Man again. This time I think we're going to be doing his Star Crash weakness, which pretty much nerfs almost all of his attacks. We don't have too many bosses left to go. Better continue to increase that Star Crash ammo. I'm not ready for that guy yet, so let's do Pig Pets. This guy can be trouble. Not the first stage, unless you totally screw up like I'm doing right now. That was pretty much a stroke of luck that I won that battle at all. So I don't have high hopes for Yamato Man here. Because as I mentioned in a previous video, his weakness, although powerful against him, is very hard to hit him with. So you could very well still lose the fight even if you have his weakness completely. And that was, again, a stroke of luck. So that just leaves 1 capsule left, and it is quite the doozy. It is the 3-parter! That is right, the 3-parter Wily boss battle from the end of the game. Why would they do this? I have no idea. It is cruel and unusual punishment. So yeah, I got still 2 more lives left, not too big a deal. We got this. First and foremost, the weakness you want to use here is Night Crush. That obliterates his health like crazy. You want to get in the first hit here, because this next form is even worse. And that's it! I had to use an energy tank here. And now we're going against his pod, where Star Crash is the weapon of the day. The shadow attacks can be really annoying, but the thing you really got to watch out for is his ground pulse, whenever you land a good hit on him. Because that can trip you up quite a bit. And yeah, I'll need the Star Crash, because it is his weakness after all, and that's it! I cannot go any further. I have lost the challenge. This is where I would have died. So, yeah, I had to use a beta-only cheat just to get through this, just to show you guys the rest of the boss rush challenge. And I was so close to beating him too. It's a real shame. But one last battle appears after all the other bosses are done. And of course it is Bass, who has no weakness except the Buster. And he's pretty much kicking my butt. So now that I've utterly failed the challenge, I'm just going to totally cheese it and show you guys the rest of the Bass battle, utilizing the beta cheat, which I think should be disabled by the time this will be officially released sometime later this month, from what I'm hearing. So yeah, Bass, from the last battle that I faced him in the previous beta, they've actually increased the damage output he does. He does a lot more damage, he's a lot faster, I've noticed. And he's a lot more agile in the variety of attacks he uses. So they did do a couple changes on his boss, AI. So if he was hard before, he's even worse now in this new beta. And most likely the final release. And he's being very awesome right now and demonstrating quite a lot of his attacks. So you got to see a lot more that he didn't do in his original incarnation that I faced him in Nightman's stage. And just like that, that's how you beat the boss rush. That's a lot of bosses. So I will put in some sort of, I guess, annotation how many points I have, how many points were possible if you did a perfect, if you did no weapons, or if you did no damage. So we'll see how I compare to that, and hopefully you can beat my score. See y'all later. Hope you enjoyed the series.